The Pathfinder panel is a really cool tool. And what it allows you to do is work with compound shapes and also cut shapes up in various ways automatically. So I'm going to go to my window menu and I'm going to choose the old Pathfinder. And as you see here, this is the panel. Let me go ahead and get rid of these guys. We have two rows here. In the top row, we have what's known as a shape mode. And what this will allow you to do is pretty much just control how components of a compound path are going to work with other shapes. And on the bottom here, we have the ability to, in one click, create a various or varied shape combination. So what we can do is have overlapping objects, click on one of the pathfinders, and then have the operation applied to it. And as you see here, we can divide objects, trim them, merge, crop, outline, and use something called minus back. And on the top row, we have add to shape area, we have subtract from shape area, we have intersect, and we have exclude. So what I'm going to do now is just draw a couple of shapes and show you what these tools will do for you. And I'll just create a couple of different ones here. Let's see, I'll put a circle over here, just overlap these guys like so. And I'm going to select them all as well. That's kind of important when you're using the Pathfinder. Now, let's go ahead and start off with the top row. As you see here, it says add to shape area. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one right here. And I'm going to deselect it. And as you see, what happens is it adds the area so that we have all the geometry together as one shape. So when I click on a color, let me go ahead and just get a color here. They're all going to be colored the same. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to keep this color for now. And I'm going to select it again. And this time I'll undo that operation. I'm going to go to the next one over. And this is going to subtract from shape area. And I'll go ahead and select that. And let's see what that one does. Now, what that does is it pretty much gives you a cutout. And it looks at the shapes that you have there. And it determines which one's going to be the one that remains behind. I'll undo that again. Let me put that circle back. And I'll select all these again. We also have this one here, which is intersect. And I'll deselect that. And as we see, when we choose intersect, all the shapes seem to vanish because they all intersected with one another. I'll select that again. Let me actually just tear this color off. And I'm going to choose this one right here, which is the last one, which is exclude overlapping. And I'll go ahead and give this a color. And you see we have a different effect because it excludes which portions of the shapes overlap with the other ones. So using the shape modes is very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and go backwards now. And hopefully I don't go too far. And yes, of course I go too far again and get rid of the circle. The bottom row here, Pathfinders, is a great way to cut things up. So I'll go ahead and click divide. Now, what I can do at this point is I can simply click on colors here. Let me grab my first color. And I will give this guy with the direct selection tool a gray color. And I'll click this one. I'll give this one a darker color. And as you see here, it divides the shape up quite a bit. So now we have some very complicated artwork and get the same kind of effect that we got before when we used the live paint feature where it separates the artwork. So what I'm going to do is instead of going backward, let's move this over and just overlap two more shapes like so. Or actually three. Now, we have the ability to once again do something else. This one's called a trim. And what a trim does is when we grab the direct selection tool, it cuts these little pieces up. It trims them along the edges. And let me undo that. And once again, select everything. The next option here is called merge. And it merges these shapes together. Now, one of the projects that I give my students just to see how they think is to create a cloud using a couple of overlapping shapes. And I try to see what shapes they're going to create and which pathfinder they're going to use. And merge is usually the one that I recommend because it takes your overlapping shapes. Once you merge them, you have a cloud. Okay, so we have our three shapes again. Now we have our next option here, which is crop. And it crops those shapes that are overlapping, and we have a new shape. Let's undo again. And we also have the ability to do an outline. So we have an outline of our shape, and we don't have a fill. Let me undo that. And last but not least, we have minus back. So what happens is it gives us everything and minuses the back shape, and it's what we're left with. So we have this shape, we have this shape, and this shape, and when you select them all, we click minus back, and there we have it. So this is your Pathfinder palette. It's very handy, and it creates some very, very cool shapes from a combination of overlapping shapes.